This is Marc Mullinax, and you're listening to Power for the Peaceful, a podcast and class on Taoism that considers, in numerical order, each of the 81 verses of my published translation of Tao Te Ching, called Tao Te Ching, Power for the Peaceful. This episode, which I entitled Tao Teaches Math, explores verse 48.
When you listen to the ground and you put your roots down, you can hear what she says if you're listening. When you listen to the ground and you put your roots down, you can hear what she says if you're listening. The sweet sound of the river as she moves over the stones. The same song that the blood in your body sings as it weaves around your bones. When you're listening, are you listening?
The one who seeks Tao begins by using wisdom to eliminate desires. Thus they lose. Once their desires are gone, they eliminate wisdom. Thus they lose again. And they go on like this until the mind and the world are both forgotten, until selfish desires are completely eliminated, and they reach the state of doing nothing. And while they do nothing, the people transform themselves. Thus, by doing nothing, the sage can do great things. Hence, those who would rule the world should know the value of not being busy. Tai Ching.
Today's reader and question asker is Naomi Joy Gill, who introduces herself this way.
I'm Naomi, originally from England. I now live in western North Carolina on a beautiful homestead with my partner Jen. I grow produce, raise hens, and also create art inspired by the incredible biodiversity we have here in this part of the country.
Welcome back, everyone. This verse has kicked my rear end. From opening paragraph to Naomi's straight-to-my-heart question, I feel exposed. I wonder if it might do the same for you, too. I'll introduce all this with some hypothetical questions. For example, if your geography teacher told you faith could move mountains, you might show some surprise. If your math instructor told you that in any given series of numbers, the first would be last and the last would be first, you might think your teacher inebriated, or the person who adds things and knowledge to their life fails at life, and the one who gives up or loses stuff lives the model life. Weird education, right? But this is the direction I'll be going today, in all sobriety, and I hope to provide some trustworthy logic to support these rather strange conclusions. All I ask is that you consider these conclusions without attempting to understand them or judge them. Just hold them without judgment. What I ask us to consider in today's class runs very counterintuitive to the very idea of a classroom in the first place. To wit, do not add to your database of believable things, but rather take away from that database. Whittle it down to near nothing. So let's run this experiment today. Consider two minds. One mind is weighed down with its habits and addictive attentions to adding to, gaining more, and multiplying itself. The other mind is the empty mind, an emptying out mind, one dedicated to the idea that most of what we cling to or hold on to in our thinking is unnatural and weighs us down. Which mind is of more value for living today? The mind focused on ever-increasing, taking on ever more weighty burdens of knowing, believing, analyzing, and judging? Or the mind empty of such? Got it? So, Naomi, let's hear today's verse, please.
Verse 48, Tao's Math. Pursuing knowledge, your routine is multiplication. Pursuing Tao, it is subtraction. Prune, lose, diminish. Keep subtracting until there is no doer, no pursuing. With no pursuit and not doing, pure action shows itself. Keep your thumb on the scale, and it is meddling upon meddling. Get out of your own way and rejoin Tao's way.
There are 40 characters in this verse. 11, or 1 out of every 4, have something to do with not getting, not achieving some result, not interfering, and with losing, pruning, diminishing. Prune, lose, diminish, keep subtracting until there's no doer, keeping one's thumb on the scale. Wow. This will be very difficult to pull off if you were born in, educated in, and live still in some Western-influenced place, a place that has taught one since birth that to be someone you must add to your resume. To be someone is to be successful, so we get trained, oh, so carefully, to thicken our resumes, to add to one's square footage of real property, to increase ownership and achievements. But not today. But let's do this thought experiment. What happens when we are oh so carefully taught, in schools especially, that to be someone is to increase who you think you are, while we actually get graded and rewarded by our increases in knowledge and quantities of power? Is there a corresponding increase in the quality of one's life? Does acquiring and owning and always adding to make for a life of peace? Does our focus on increasing our quantities make us more available to others, or just more centered upon our own reputation and exploits? Which may point to the problem here. In Taoism, what we are is a one-to-one correspondence with how we came to be here in the first place. That journey does not need anything added. Already enough. You can't top yourself off with anything more. For Taoism, if one compares it to a recipe, needs nothing added. It's a recipe of removal. When our cultures of education or of becoming someone tells us we should add to our sense of self, add to our knowledge base, these additional ingredients are not in our original recipe. The mind seeking more is a scattered, multitasking, multi-focused mind, one prone to getting lost in thinking as it juggles all its added stuff like a show person spinning plates on sticks. The ancient Chinese worldview was suspicious of knowledge, which is very different from being anti-knowledge. Knowledge has its place, but to cram unnecessary knowledge into someone displaces a person, as bad as adding something besides water to a well.
Get rid of knowledge, said the Chinese philosopher Yan Sun, a 1st century BCE commentator on Tao Te Ching. The knowledge of no knowledge is the ancestor of all knowledge and the teacher of heaven and earth.
What's going on here? To add is to restrict. More laws forces things. More rules turns people into robots. I have, with my PhD, robotically used my knowledge to silence people or situations, like a king or queen would use their majesty to impress people or situations. So, this is a verse directed at me? Just wait for Naomi's question in a few moments. In the Tao worldview, the sage, the ruler, even someone like you or me, imitates a sculptor. Just by removing all that is not originally necessary, one assumes one's original greatness. By getting rid of, by doing nothing, one can then be in touch with one's power and influence for peace.
A person is like a fraction whose numerator is what they are and whose denominator is what they think of themselves. The larger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. Leo Tolstoy.
Most people immediately look at any given situation and leap to conclusions about what they can do or add to something to make some situation better. People often misunderstand when I say we must learn to neutralize our habits of addictive addition. Not very American. Won't go far in today's world, they say. I speak of a kind of lifestyle, a spiritual practice in which we mindfully shave away all that must not continue, like a Michelangelo meditating before that massive marble piece that was to become David. We whittle away all that is not David. We practice Tao by practicing what we are and let go, let loose, let die things in order to be free. If you want to fly, you must let go of all that weighs you down. There are things we need to lose before we can even see or save and then practice love. Socrates taught this. So did the Buddha, Jesus, Martin Luther King. The way truly to live is to practice the art of dying to the seductive habits of maintaining stuff we have no business maintaining. Without such dying, forget your free will. If no free will, then no love for others. If no love, we run on gas that our internal engines are not made for, and we grind to halt. For here's the ethical problem, one that I participate in and maintain. In our so-called modern lifestyles today, it is so easy to accumulate and own something very quickly. I mean, so quick, we don't even analyze the processes we go through when we acquire stuff. We just go out and buy stuff, often on impulse. There's no counter-teaching in our societies against this buy whatever, whenever, forever mentality shared in the most of us. Do we ever consider just as easily what we can divest ourselves of? That we are a part of a blind middle-class campaign to acquire, and that our acquisitions actually makes much of the rest of the world poor? That my mentality of addition means a forced subtraction for others? For there is this secret algorithm going on here that is not only economic, but also Taoist. Too much yang means yin for someone. Where is the courage first to stop what we're doing in a moment of blinding awareness of how we are the very mechanisms of despair for a world of enforced have-nots? For more, check out the podcast episode called On Being in the show notes.
When you're listening, are you listening? When you're listening, are you listening?
Very few of us ever get motivated to consider that their lives are better by removing things, by what they can and could remove. What things? What can one remove? Well, consider these few ideas. We can start by subtracting our attachments to material possessions, to our needs to control outcomes, and withdraw from relationships with things that only create complications. We can profitably lose excessive desires and cravings that lead to a cluttered or divided mind and perhaps a secret life. We can trash unnecessary thoughts. All that overthinking and mental noise habits we have taken on that obstructs clarity and peace. We can prune away distractions that can pull one away from focusing on what is essential and meaningful. We can thin out superfluous activities and commitments that do not add one whit of value to life or contribute to well-being of a planet in great distress already. We can distance ourselves from harmful relationships, to screens, or to people that drain energy and waste precious time. We can part ways with the ego shouting for its need to control, for recognition, and its constant pursuit of self-validation in the presence of others. We can shed, like a snake sheds its skin, fears and worries that hinder one's ability to live in the present moment. We can chip off, like a sculptor, those judgments and preconceived notions about self and others in order, maybe for the first time in a long time, to have a true understanding of reality. We can drop our lifestyles of busyness. That lifestyle that I grew up with as a Christian whose bumper sticker was always, "Jesus is coming, look busy." Decreasing the busyness of life recreates our natural spaces for stillness, reflection, and connection with Tao. We can diminish and even avoid all that non-starter effort and striving, those constant compulsions to enhance, augment, and increase, without which a pre-existing and entirely natural state of ease and natural flow emerges. This flow and ease have been there all along, mind you, but have gotten covered over by the chaos. Imagine learning to park permanently our ideas of self-importance. Without all that space inside us that we give over, usually rent-free, for our senses of self-importance and pride, we become more humble and open to original peace, our birthright. This is vital information. The philosopher Pascal said that our problem is distraction, and the solution is not more distraction. The only cure for distraction is attention. Attention is vocation, one's call. The appropriate response is not more noise, but more silence. To choose to be always busy and always adding is only to bait the trap, to create space, more space for one's demons or bad habits to enter. The strange good news here is that a life of quiet, silence, and peace is a miraculous force field against such demons, whether real, imagined, or metaphorical. So, learn to sit still, and like agitated, muddy water going calm, the mental fermentations fall away. Practice nothing. We're taught how to talk, but not how to listen. We learn well to push the self forward in the world, but not to diminish that self. This adding nothing, this diminishment, is a practice. The practice of adding makes us anxious, whether it's a test or for approval, for self-esteem. So, why should we prune, lose, diminish, and subtract? By continuously subtracting and pruning, losing and diminishing, one more nearly touches our original nature, that state of wu-wei, where pure, effortless action arises naturally, where we align with the natural order of things, and no longer with that artificial intelligence or senses that keep us preoccupied with gaining and adding and multiplying.
Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry.
When you're listening, are you listening? When you're listening, are you listening?
This idea of pruning, losing, diminishing, subtracting is not a teaching of just Taoism. Oh no. This teaching is shared by most spiritual traditions, especially in the ones that seek or enable or re-enable the mystical, the dark, and the quiet as our natural states of being. Most famously, Eastern Orthodox Christianity has a 2,000-year-old tradition of the via negativa, or I call it religious agnosis, or not knowing. Via negativa has nothing to do with negativity, as it is generally understood. Literally, via negativa means the way, or Tao, of removal. The Greek word for this is kenosis, as in emptying oneself of one's apparent identity, so that another identity, like one's true identity, can then reemerge and have its way, have its day. Via negativa is a well-known way of living with the mysteries of life, because ultimate realities cannot be caught or taught directly. Via negativa allows for the mystery of life to re-emerge by getting rid of words. Meister Eckhart's sermons and the cloud of unknowing are perhaps the best-known briefs for this perspective in the West, and are quite close to the opening verses of Tao Te Ching. Next, Buddhism has the don't know mind, or the beginner's mind, which we treated in our episodes treating Tao Te Ching's verses 1, 10, 13, 15, and especially the question our reader Matti posed to us in verse 45. The Buddha also taught that we lose only the things that we cling to.
You only lose what you cling to. Letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. If in our heart we still cling to anything, anger, anxiety, or possessions, we cannot be free. The Buddha.
This process of losing pruning, this process of via negativa, puts one closely in touch with Hinduism's concept of neti, or not this and not that, neither this nor that. And usually whatever this or that is usually an ego-assisted concept that distracts, has no spiritual or natural value, and is not tied with eternity. Neti is a spiritual exercise, the purpose of which is to negate all objects of consciousness, one by one, little by little, and learn to exclude that ceaseless spigot of thoughts and mind concepts, and by recreating an empty space once again within. Why? To realize one's original non-dual awareness. So this idea of putting our egos and thoughts on a permanent diet is a shared one among the wisest of ancient traditions. A cleared mind is a useful one. A cleared agenda or schedule allows the important to emerge. Reducing processed foods or sugar, salt, and additives gives room for real food to be digested. One can learn spiritually a lot by merely knowing what to avoid. Practicing not doing and not adding, paradoxically, adds quality to what is. Now, folks, this is not some self-help podcast. However, we can improve our life substantially by subtraction. Remove sugar. Prune toxic relationships. Reduce boredom. Diminish screen time. Reframe our activities. Take that thumb of perfectionism off your scales that tell you who you should be. Relocate excuses. Show jealousy the door. Do these, and here's the joy. You receive more space for what matters. It's not an overnight process, but you can do something right now, and that's our homework. Start mindfully removing, reducing, pruning, reducing one thing that takes up a lot of your time: energy, oxygen. Can you starve that thing out of existence?
If you would swim on the bosom of the ocean of truth, you must reduce yourself to a zero. Mahatma Gandhi.
Again, go slow. This is not an overnight thing, but a lifelong journey. The more we can let go, the more we may discover who we actually are and enable others sharing this planet, from people to single-celled creatures, actually to thrive. I will close with this quote from medieval Christian mystic Meister Eckhart. He uses the word God, but you can use your word for your ultimate reality.
God is not found in the soul by adding anything, but by a process of subtraction.
Okay, let's transition to your fascinating question, Naomi. I both like it and I kind of not like it, because it's the very question I had to confront while working on this episode. Would you kindly frame the question for us, please?
If you are naturally somebody who likes to learn and gain knowledge, or be very active and high-achieving, how can you balance these inclinations with the teaching of verse 48?
Again, you have sent a question right to my heart. Well, first of all, there is no clock, calendar, or timetable in Taoism. Things happen or occur in a Taoist worldview, yes, but on a schedule of right time, right place, right situation. When these three merge, then what needs to occur happens. But there's no actor, no God figure, no manipulator, no puppeteer. It's wu-wei all the time. No actor, no action, but a synchronization of time, circumstance, natural amounts of or balances of yin and yang. No ego-driven forces, but rather natural energies all about. Balancing my natural inclination toward learning and achievement with the teachings of verse 48 means I should integrate more and more the principle of wu-wei, or effortless action, into my own life. When I allow this to occur naturally, then I may more readily see a fundamental need to distinguish between accumulating stuff and reducing all the noise and stuff I've allowed to take up rent-free residence in my life and attention. But it's a slow process for someone like me. I was brought up in a family where education was highly regarded, and we sacrificed an immense amount of time and treasure to become educated, whatever that means. I have qualified for 3 master's degrees and a PhD degree. So this verse speaks directly to the heart of someone like me who has been accumulating knowledge unquestioned for his lifetime. What would Tao teach me? And can I listen at my relatively advanced age? So here is a meditation or sermon to myself. I'll pause throughout, Naomi, to see if you want to add or correct things. First, Marc, go slow. Nothing happens overnight. Like images on the eyeball that fade only gradually, old habits fade gradually too. For someone pretty bought into the Western values of accumulation and holding on to knowledge as a kind of one-upmanship and sign of respect, the first thing I need to do is acknowledge that your question, Naomi, is very Buddhist, in that when the student, me, is ready, then the teacher, you, and your question, Naomi, appear. I should realize that accumulation has had its place and its day in my life. But what have I been overlooking in my drive to accumulate education and stuff? You got any thoughts for me so far?
The thing that comes to my mind is, I like your answer, and it makes me think of the way of Tao is almost like a refining of these activities, or this seeking the knowledge and gaining the knowledge, because as kind of the ego falls away, you have this kind of refined, more natural, naturally gained knowledge, or accumulated things that are not tainted by what the world has imposed upon us.
Or the ego. I like the Taoist word ziran, that is that spontaneous stuff that happens rather than me pre-directing something with my own thoughts. Anyway, well, second of all, Tao is always about spontaneous and natural simplicity. If I have been overeducated and overstuffed with stuff, can I use what I have for others? That is, can I start to develop over time a slow turning from self to others? Since I have accumulated way more than my share, how can I then be a resource to others with my accumulations of knowledge and things? Perhaps this free podcast might be a good place for me to start. Or maybe I should start advertising my expertise for free as a Taoist. You have any thoughts on that, Naomi?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, this is a way of life and a religion that here in the West we would definitely use that knowledge and to pass on that wisdom for free. It is something that would really enrich people in this culture.
I get emails every week from somebody asking me if I want to monetize this podcast. And I always say, no, thank you. Thanks for asking. But I just don't think that some things should be paid for. Third, can I be more curious instead of more directed in my goals? Instead of having some things predetermined or hard and fast outcomes based on my needs for control, can I be more curious about life and not be so rejecting or dismissive of certain types or groups of people and become more ready to see every moment as an opportunity? No, not opportunity, but a new invitation to listen, to see, and to feel anew the amazing diversity of life. For example, I am often early to my appointments. Can I get out of my car? Can I get out of my head and just observe the events of nature all around me all the time? Can I actually listen as if for the first time to a bird calling? What if that bird is actually calling me? What if the trees in my forest walks are constantly sending out these invitations actually to observe and see and interact with them? to see them in me and me among them. This way, I can slowly displace my own head thoughts with the, gigabytes and terabytes, to use scientific language, of what's already happening all around me. Nature is ultimately information, just voiced in millions of accents, songs, and invitations. As my song on the podcast reminds me, are you listening?
When you're listening, are you listening? When you're listening, when you're listening, are you listening?
So this verse to me is about my need to control. Can I let loose of it? I can talk a good game about the teaching of verse 29, which is called rhythm. It says, because Tao shapes nature, all things under heaven run by a sublime spiritual rhythm. Can you improve it? It is doubtful. Meddling only blocks Tao's flow. Control is another name for lose. All things have their right time, right place, rhythms. So I can read this verse like forever, but will I listen to it and see the underlying sublime, even spiritual rhythm to all things? Wanting controlled results is ignorance, but seeking understanding in an attitude of curiosity is wisdom. So, thoughts, Naomi?
Yeah, I think it's beautiful, the idea of hearing a bird's call as though for the first time, and this idea that nature can impart its own knowledge to us. And it makes me think of the beginner's mind phrase, and just approaching each day as though you're seeing everything for the first time. I think it's just such an enriching way to live.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Fourth, patience. Give grace to oneself to know that you spent decades or even lifetimes in the pursuit of things like knowledge. It'll take just as long for me to let go of these deeply ingrained habits of mind and heart as it took for me to gain them. So, patience with self is part of my response, Naomi. Do you have any thoughts about patience with self?
Yeah, I think it's super important to be kind to yourself, and to just allow yourself to be where you're at and not try to change yourself quickly, but to just be an observer of yourself and what's going on, and not fight that, but just allow yourself to flow into the person who you are, and it's always a good reminder to slow down and not to try to rush things. Yeah.
Thank you for putting that in your own thoughts and words. Okay, fifth, where and when do I actually join Tao in some flow state in my life already? Athletics, yes. Art, yes. With my grandchildren, yes. Cooking without a recipe, oh yeah. So I can do these more, with more focus, more awareness. And I think that this awareness leaves a deep impression on me that I can then carry over into all the other states or conditions of my life. If I can sense the flow of Tao and athletics in creating art, that is photography, in cooking, in children, then I can certainly carry the glow or that aroma of these into the rest of my life, filled with all its duties and work schedules and all those temptations to accumulate. I can, like water, wear down these duties, schedules, temptations, and replace them with more flow-centered awareness. What do you think, Naomi? I think I'm on the right track here?
Yeah, I like that, and it's a really helpful reminder for me, just to doing things differently and not always acting out of habit, but to remember you've got choices to bring something new to your day, or just to go with the flow and to follow spontaneity. It could just lead to new things.
So, Naomi, you've given me basically my life question that you have just mirrored back to me, the very question that I need to be involved with. So thank you for your gift to me. What you've done is open up space within me again to realize that I am not my thoughts. I am not my control-seeking. I am not my attention-seeking behaviors. I am made, quite literally, of Tao dust and Tao processes. And anything I do to counter Tao's flow is my ego doing its usual Tao-blocking behaviors. Wow. I have a long way to go. But you have cracked my universe, Naomi, and I hope, in Leonard Cohen's words, that through this crack, some light can get in. You have any final thoughts, Naomi?
I like the image of light, the light coming in, and this, just letting the light in. There's so much light in the world, and it's there to come in.
Yeah, and as we get cracked open by questions like yours, maybe there'll be more little cracks, and the light gets in and gets stronger, I hope. Naomi, thank you so much for being part of this podcast episode. I've really enjoyed having you here.
Thank you for having me.
This podcast is an original labor of love, designed, written, and co-produced by many whose central idea is that Tao Te Ching is good news for today. Tao still speaks. Thanks to Naomi Joy Gill for your voice and question. Audrey Davis is our artist, and have you noticed her updated artwork for the podcast yet? Molly Hartwell donates her song, Put Your Roots Down. Fortress Press holds the copyright for quotations from my Tao Te Ching translation. May your days begin in peace and become wombs for radical hope.
Are you listening?